NCIS, what's your emergency?
Echo Whiskey 2770, go secure.
I'm sorry, I don't...
Echo Whiskey 2770, go secure. Is this line secure?
I don't know. I'm not really the dispatch operator. I'm just sitting in.
Your name. Tell me your name.
Casey.
Casey, listen to me. I don't have much time. They're looking for me. I need help.
Who's looking for you? Where are you?
Wait. I hear something. I think they found me.
Hello? Are you still there? Hello? Okay, so when we are shooting that first Walk a Mile day where Casey is in dispatch, it's so much fun for me because unbeknownst to me, they cast a really great actress, Nina Concepcion, who's so funny as Gladys. And I loved having a chance to really play Casey just trying her best and completely a fish out of water. We don't really get to see that. Casey really needs to be at her best most of the time because it's literally cases of life and death. And to get a chance to just have her so eager to learn but confused was very fun for me. When Casey goes to McGee and Torres and is like, I think I overheard a murder. First of all, that scene was so fun because McGee is doing his Walk a Mile day. So she's literally interrupting his day. And I just really appreciated the fact that Casey has never been this close to the ground. Like usually we don't see Casey, going to the crime scene where the bodies are. We don't see her. We kind of see her after the evidence has already been gathered. So this was her really being on, the ground floor of this case, and it really shook her in a way that was so exciting for me to get a chance to play. Casey, it's so interesting. Casey's been in all these situations where she's kind of been, held hostage a couple of times, but she doesn't go to the field. She doesn't go to the crime scene. So for me that day, it was like, oh, this is what you guys are doing all the time? Like when I'm not here? Like, oh, I didn't know I was at home. But having her explore this really fresh, still filled with bodies crime scene was... that was a new one for me. That was not something that I honestly was prepared for, and it was gruesome. I almost had to pop my contacts out. That's what I do. That's my little actor trick sometimes. When I don't want to see the dead bodies, sometimes I take my contact lenses out so I don't have to see them. Of all the crime scenes for Casey to walk into, there were like 6, 7 bodies. It felt like bodies were just like raining down from the ceiling. I was like, where are all these people coming from? Every time I looked, every corner I looked, there was a new person just like slumped down. It was a lot. It was really a lot. I think there was something in Webb's voice that Casey trusted. But also Webb isn't afraid really to say pretty early on, like, hey, those people that you're with, you are in danger. Don't tell them anything. And in his confessing of that, in his correct assessment of the scene, it really lets Casey perk up and be like, hey, wait a minute, this guy's telling me something that I would not have gotten otherwise. Casey's an evidence-based person. So if you can present evidence to Casey, she's going to listen. I wish in my life that people believed me like the team believed Casey, because let me tell you, I'd be winning at board games more often. But for Casey's team to just have her back immediately and say like, no, listen, if you trust this guy, then I trust him. That was such a cool moment, and it felt like such a good character development moment for Casey because she's now been part of this team for years, and she's really developed a rapport with people. And even though she's not used to being in this situation, they're used to trusting her. So that was something that felt really true to the team and true to the character. I thought Marco Schnabel, the writer, did a great job with that. Casey has been around the agents long enough that she's started to pick up a couple things that they're laying down, especially Jess. She has a very good relationship with Jess. So having Jess in that scene right next to her, kind of coaching her, I think maybe she was pulling a little, Jessica Knight instinct in, even if she's a terrible liar. I'm not surprised Casey's a terrible liar. She talks a lot. I think that, well, one, Jess has saved Casey literally like twice when there was the hostage episode, but also there was the when they were poisoned, and when Casey was held hostage. Even though in the bullpen, even though Gibbs is the one that takes the shot, Gibbs is the one that takes that hero shot. We love Gibbs. Um, Jess is the first person she runs to. Their Springmill friendship is really something special. Their relationship is really something special to me, and I hope that we continue to develop that. I can't believe I wrote myself into a hostage situation. But let me tell you, the next time if I write another episode, Casey's going to the spa. Casey's gonna have a spa day with Jimmy. They're gonna come. They're besties. It's gonna be fun. That scene with Webb where Casey's on the phone with him may be my favorite scene that I've ever done in NCIS history. It felt like a play. It felt like a one-act play, and I have a theater background, so of course I was having a great time. But also Chris McKenna, who plays Webb, is just impossible to not be charmed by. He's so cool, such a nice guy, such a phenomenal actor. And I had Rocky Carroll directing me, who's an incredible director, and Marco Schnabel wrote this scene where they get a chance to connect, and Casey confesses that not only does she know something about blaming herself, but it's something that she's doing right now in this moment. We've never really seen much of Casey in a relationship. She kind of talks about Piper a little bit, but they broke up. And originally, I can confess this, Marco wrote a really wonderful scene, and Casey talked about blaming herself for her dad's death. And I went to Marco and I said, "This is wonderful. Would you consider changing it a little bit?" Because we've explored Casey's dad's death a couple times. And Marco, to his credit, took it, and I didn't say what it should be. Marco absolutely took it and ran with it. And he and the showrunners, David North and Steve Binder, came up with this really great scene where Casey's blaming herself for being alone. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, and a lot of people have done, and even some of our characters have done. So it's right within the realm of the NCIS world. And I just think it's such a beautiful scene. Chris McKenna was there the whole time. He did all his lines with me live. They may have done some post voiceover stuff, but at one point I apologized. I said, "I am so sorry. I know that you could be home right now, literally doing this on the phone." And he said, "No," because he's great. He was like, "No, I like this connection that we're forming." And it really did feel like we were forming a connection, because even though I couldn't look at him, his voice was so warm and just right there in my ear and ever present. And some of those takes were some of those shots were like one-shotters, which is always nice to do. You always feel good when you know that you kind of nailed it on the first try. So go me. It was just such a fun scene to shoot. I could shoot 20 of those. When Casey gets back to that safe house, she's ready to snap. She is ready to let him absolutely have it. And I know that he's the one with the gun, but she is like, I'm not going out like this. I've been through too much. And I'm really proud of her in that scene. I'm really proud that she does not just take this lying down, even if it doesn't turn out, even if her big stand doesn't turn out the way she wants it to. I'm proud of her for taking it, because I know the old Casey would have not. And her emotions are really confusing. As soon as he tells her what she's really there for, she does trust him again, rather quickly. I think because they had already built that rapport, they had already really built that trust in that relationship. And so even though she's stunned, she leaps into action. I think that there's two ways that people can live in general, which is either you can move forward, or you can, really try to stay the same, which really means you're almost kind of regressing, because nothing ever stays the same. And Casey spent the first couple seasons trying to ignore what she felt, trying to ignore the fear that she felt, and just letting it silently take over. And I think this new Casey, at some point, he had to really embrace it and say, if I'm going to stay here, if I'm going to stay in this job with these people, I'm just going to have to face whatever is thrown at me head on and deal with it in the moment, not just be taken over by fear. And that's the new Casey. And I'm so, so proud of her because I think she's much more interesting. And I think not letting the fear take over is much more true to who the core of her character is. Funny enough, I don't do stunts. And so that's as much stunts as I can do. At one point, I kind of grabbed the gun and, I'm walking backwards with it. And when Rocky told me to go backwards, I was like, I know that this makes sense in the scene, but it doesn't make sense in my body because I will definitely fall. And on the second take, I literally I ran backwards and all of a sudden I looked up at the camera and I was like, why is the camera up there and I'm down here? I was like on the ground, flat on my back. Luckily I know how to fall, but it was very funny. It was very embarrassed. I asked Rocky, I said, did you see my fall in the camera? He said, no, but I heard it. Just heard me hit the ground. Oh, that's funny. Well, Casey does all the ballistics testing, so we've seen her do that a couple times. And then once Jess took her to the shooting range. Once again, that friendship coming right back. Jess took her to the shooting range. Um, so but we haven't seen her kind of pointing at the bad guy. Because when she was taken in Blarney, I believe her weapon of choice was a pitcher of iced tea, which was very fun too. Casey's braver than me, because I would have. I can't protect you no more. Once I got four people, but it's once again, it's about trust. It's about relationships. Um, Casey could not have jumped in front of Webb. The old Casey before could not have jumped in front of Webb the way that this Casey does. Casey would not have trusted her team the way this Casey does. And in that moment, she is just absolutely so convinced and knows already that they trust her in a way that they will not harm her. It's very powerful. And Casey's been to a lot more therapy than me. And once again, I'm just so proud of her. I would love for Casey to have a romantic storyline. I know we've seen a lot of other characters kind of go through it. I love seeing Casey happy whenever I get the opportunity to, even if that happiness is slightly fraught. I think it's great. So yes, please. I think Casey's ideal partner is definitely someone that she's impressed by. I just remember that scene with Abby where she could barely talk. I want a scene where she's stuttering to find her words. And maybe another brilliant scientist would be so fun. I got a lot of friends that I think would actually be really great partners for Casey. My friend Keiko Adena, who was Lane Kim on Gilmore Girls and also in Prodigal Son, I think would be such a funny match for Casey. Um, Gosh, I don't know. Is Idris Elba around? I mean, that's fine. Let's see. I mean, anybody. Bring in anybody. Bring in the cast of 90210. I don't know.